Greg, welcome to Waco and welcome to the show. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, John. It's always a pleasure, and congrats on the new venture. And I'm happy to be a part of day 2.
Well, very nice. You elevate our status with you being on with us, so I
Very kind.
really appreciate it. Travel okay for you?
Just perfect. Chartered right into Waco yesterday, and no problems whatsoever. Beautiful day, too. We've had some very chilly Big 12 travel of late, as you know, and it was nice to land at 80 degrees yesterday.
Yeah, how about that? Well, enjoy it because it may be 30 in a week or so back here. Let me ask you this before we talk basketball. I mentioned this earlier. I, for my entire life, have pronounced the hotel chain as Marriott. And we come and we play in Provo in the outstanding Marriott Center, and you pronounce it Marriott, and it seems like everybody out there, Provo, Salt Lake City, it's pronounced Marriott.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking, it's based out there, right, in Salt Lake City. So maybe you've got it right, and we've had it wrong all these years. All right, hang on. We'll get Greg back.
A little bit there, John. Hopefully I'm back with you. We may have a little freeze there. Are we back all right now?
Yep, you're back. Go.
There we go. Yeah. The Marriott family, came from the East Coast, and so J. Willard Marriott. I think that's kind of how that's how they pronounce their family name, as I recall. And so we always just knew it as the Marriott family and the Marriott Center, and yet Marriott is something I do hear a lot too. I don't think anybody's too uptight about it, but we probably favor the Marriott more than the Marriott in our neck of the woods. But I think it's all good.
I think you're right, and I'm going to change. And if people say, hey, you're mispronouncing that, if they tell me that, I'll say, no. Greg Wrubell told me it's Marriott. So that's what it's going to be moving forward. We're glad to have you in Foster Pavilion tonight. Hopefully have a great home court advantage. And what do you think Rob Wright's temperature is coming back to Waco for this game tonight?
Yeah, that really is the interesting question, isn't it? Is the response he'll get and the response to the response? I think, right? He's a pretty chill kid, actually. He has a really kind of an easy baseline, if you ask me, and so I'd be surprised if he plays too much out of his head tonight. There's no doubt he wants to play well. I don't know, honestly, John. The entire backstory of the departure from Waco and the arrival in Provo. But if that's a part of the storyline, that's understandable. I know BYU's really happy to have him, and I know that he wants to play well tonight, and BYU will need him to play well tonight. And in fact, the storyline with this team, John, is that they have a big three, as everyone knows: AJ DiBonsa, Richie Saunders, and Robert Wright III, and the big three have to all be on for BYU to win games against good teams. And that hasn't been the case in the last few games against those best teams that BYU's faced. And so they really need those three to be playing really well together. And not even just that, but the additional two members of the starting five have to be playing, I think, more consistently than they have as well. BYU has a very narrow margin for error with the way this roster is constructed and the depth challenges the team has. And so the best guys have to be your best guys every night, and that includes Robert Wright.
What would you say, what has been missing maybe the last 4 games, 4 losses, but 3 of those to really good teams, and then the loss to Oklahoma State? What is there a common thread maybe between those 4 games?
Yeah, it's interesting because 3 of the 4 losses are to top 10 teams.
Yeah, right.
There was an Arizona, there's a Kansas on the road, and there's a Houston. And then the outlier game you have to look at is Oklahoma State. What happened there? Because BYU shot 50%, BYU scored 92 points, and AJ DiBonsa had 36. If those 3 things happen, against a lower tier Big 12 team, you should be expecting a victory. So why didn't BYU win? Well, the simple number is 99. They gave up 99 points. And to be fair, some of those points came late in the game via free throws and BYU had to foul. But the point remains, BYU didn't defend nearly well enough to win that game. And Kevin Young used words like pathetic, abysmal, and a joke to describe BYU's defense during the stretch, but especially in that game. And so what happened? They turned around, took on Houston, played much better defense, held Houston to 77, and we're right there to the very end. But part of defense, John, is defensive rebounding.
Mm.
And offensive rebounds that Houston grabbed in the second half and down the stretch led to second chance point after second chance point after second chance point. And that's where BYU let down against Houston, was on the defensive glass, which brings us to Baylor. One of Baylor's strengths is offensive rebounding. And so BYU has to learn its lesson from Saturday and make sure it doesn't repeat itself tonight against the Bears, because they are so good at crashing. But a long answer to your question, the short answer is defense. They need to get better. And perhaps BYU is expending so much energy with the big three on the offensive end that they weren't giving the kind of effort they needed to defensively. But Kevin Young really hammered that home. And that's where BYU's had the most slippage. If you look at BYU's metrics from a month ago to now, the offensive numbers have held very steady. In fact, BYU's, I think, right now 11th in KenPom in offensive efficiency. But that number's dropped from the teens to the 40s over this past month. And there is your answer.
Wow. All right, very good. And you mentioned A.J. DeBonsa, one of the outstanding freshmen in this league, in the country. Gosh, we've got some good ones, right, in this league, and DeBonsa is right up there with the top freshmen in the country.
And Tunde Yesufu. I mean, it seems like every team has an outstanding freshman. The Big 12 is loaded with freshman talent this year. In fact, I'd be surprised, John, if you don't see maybe 4 freshmen on the all-conference team at the end of the year, which is kind of unforeseen in most leagues. Usually it's that portal talent, the senior talent, and this year the freshmen are really, really at the forefront in the Big 12, and Baylor's just the latest team with a really talented new player. And that's also good to see that there's still room in college basketball at the highest levels for the freshmen, to come in and shine, and the team still look that way and simply don't say we're simply going to hit the portal every year and that's how we have to do it. Freshmen can still be a big part of your program, and certainly these are high level freshmen we're talking about, and they're gravitating toward high level programs in a high level league. But that's been maybe an interesting trend that maybe not every team or conference is seeing right now.
Yeah, that's a great point. How about Coach Young? What's his temperature right now? Having lost 4 straight, but 3 of those are to top 10 teams. How's he handling that?
Yeah, great thing about Kevin is never too high, never too low. You're not surprised when you learn that he came from the NBA world. In the NBA, you play 80 to 100 games a year, including playoffs, and they come so quickly, and you really can't afford to be too high, too low, result to result. Now, it's more important at the college game. The number of games is greatly diminished. They mean more, and he knows that. But his blood runs, very cool. And that's a great thing to have in a head coach. But he's very pointed, though, in his critiques. He's professional, he's calm, but he's very pointed when it comes to letting people know, players and otherwise, what his team has to do better to have success. And he's not sitting very well with 4 consecutive losses. Don't get me wrong. He knows the urgency. BYU is probably close to a lock for the NCAA tournament, but you never want to see prolonged losing streaks at this time of year. Your seed drops, the perception is influenced, and BYU has to find a way to turn things around. And so he knows what has to happen. And John, this is a rare thing. This is BYU's first 4-game losing streak in 3 years. Mm-hmm. Their last 5-game losing streak was 21 years ago.
Wow.
So it's been a long, long time since BYU's had this kind of rough patch. We just we had the qualifier a minute ago. 3 top 10 teams.
Right.
It's not like losing to WCC teams or Mountain West teams. These are Big 12 programs and top 10 programs. So it's a very difficult stretch. And every coach I talk to in this conference, when previewing the games against BYU, they all say, "Hey, every team has their gauntlet stretch in the Big 12." Baylor may have already had it, quite frankly. BYU's in it right now. Every team's going to have that stretch where it's top 10 after top 10 after top 10, and you might take some L's. But I think BYU'd have to really, have a drastic drop off to put themselves in tournament jeopardy. I think they've done enough at this point. But where they were, a 3 seed pretty confidently a few weeks ago, you're now seeing more, 6s and some 7s, and so you just want to kind of hang in the mix, not let things go too far off the rails, and hopefully be peaking at the right time here in about a month.
Final thought, Greg. Did you catch that game last night, Arizona and Kansas?
I did. Yeah. I did. I watched almost the entirety, and we had just played there a week and a half ago. And it's interesting. The Kansas dynamic without Darren Peterson is almost as effective as with Darren Peterson, which is kind of an indictment in a way unfortunately, to Darren, because his team tends to really come together and play as a team and play well when he's not on the floor. Certainly you want him on the floor. In fact, he only played a half against BYU, and that half kind of helped Kansas. The big lead was gained with Darren on the floor. BYU made the comeback when he was off the floor in the second half. That said, that's a really weird dynamic right now, and I don't envy Bill Self or even his teammates as to how they deal with the Darren Peterson situation game to game. But the fact that they won a game, as big as that was, and Bill Self did call it, he said maybe the biggest win they've had since he's been the head coach. To get that win without him, that really does introduce some interesting perspectives of the chemistry and dynamic on that team. But to get back to your point, yes, outstanding game. The mid-range shots that Arizona was killing BYU with in Provo didn't fall as frequently last night. And Arizona is that team. They're going to take a high volume of mid-range shots. They'll favor those over the threes, as we all know. And they have the guys that can hit them. But last night in the second half especially, a lot of the shots kept coming up short and allowed the Kansas to creep back in. And then the fog got crazy, and that was that.
Yeah, that was a great game. It was a great showcase for the league, wasn't it? Those two teams going head to head.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it is great to have you in town. We appreciate your time this morning, and enjoy the 80-degree Central Texas weather while you're here.
Always great to be with you, John, and I look forward to chatting with you and seeing you later tonight at Foster Pavilion.
We'll see you there. Thanks very much. Greg Wrubell, the great voice of the BYU Cougars.